Well, hello, everybody. I believe we're live streaming. We'll have somebody check that out just to make sure. And I think I muted my YouTube channel. If I didn't, we'll hear an echo here in a minute. But it's good to see everybody. Well, see, you're seeing me. I'm not seeing you. I could see you. Anyway, so it's good to have everybody join us tonight. Those of you listening through Power Faith Radio, it's good to have you aboard. Listen, you can go to that link and see that and come right on over to the YouTube channel. And there you can find the ways to come into the Zoom room and I'm sorry, the Facebook. Then you can find the YouTube channel, Zoom room, all those things. If you're watching us on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to that channel while you're there and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified every time a new video goes up, and you can go to A Simple Walk Facebook page and find all the links on our classes. Hello, Terry. How you doing?
Hello, Scotty.
You want to greet everybody that's in the Zoom room, and then I'll get ready to do our Tzedakah time.
All right. Greetings, everyone. Of course, Scotty's down there in the engine room, poking buttons and checking dilithium crystals.
Yeah.
Some kind of good Star Trek reference in a while. And then we got Rob. Do what?
We always got to have those.
No, I know it. All right. And Ronald's here with us tonight. And Thomas, glad to see you're here and you're doing better, feeling better. Good deal. And Bob and Amuela and Veronica is with us, and Nancy's with us here in the Zoom room. As Scotty's always said, he's going to give some more instruction here in a minute, but you can always go over to A Simple Walk. And also Ronald's, Northsides of Australia, right? And the links are in Ronald's group over there to come into the Zoom room if you want to. And then so we've got Joanne joining us here. And we've had a pretty good week here. It's been rain and no rain, and then rain and no rain. Well, no, it rained again. That's what's been doing. I think I've got to mow my yard like once in between the raindrops. Now it's needing it again. But greetings, everyone, here in the Zoom room, YouTube channel, and over at Power Faith Radio. Glad you joined us here tonight. And thank you for hanging in there with us tonight. We're going to be starting the discussion of the sixth day. Probably take at least 2 weeks, maybe a third one, but at least two, because of the amount of information that is here. There's going to be some particular part of this class tonight, and we're going to be covering, God willing, verses 24 through 26 of Genesis chapter 1. We've got some key verses here, or passage here, that's been misunderstood, mistranslated, mistaught on, misbelieved. And tonight we're going to learn what the Torah has to say, what that verse says, and what it means. And it may stir a little bit of emotion. That's okay. It's always good when we get a little bit emotional as we're learning. If you've got questions, get them over to Scotty. We can discuss the questions tonight, or if we need to come back next week and discuss on next week, we can do that. The sixth and the seventh day is going to probably stir up quite a bit of questionings, which is good. Questions for learning, not debating. Questions for learning is always good. And it betters our spirituality when we seek to learn and not to debate and try to, just, I guess, push things on other people. What we want to do is learn, as Scotty loves to say, what the text has to say. Scotty's always about the text. He uses big old long words when he talks. See, right there, he used one of those $15 words. Well, wait a minute, we've had inflation. It's probably a $25 word now.
Yeah, so it's up to 25.
It's probably up to 25. But greetings, everyone, tonight. We're looking forward to tonight, and what the questions that comes, we're looking forward to that. Comments and are always welcome as well. Scotty, you about ready?
I am ready. I want to say one thing about the questions.
Use my throat. I'm just.
You're good. I want to say one thing about the questions, that we look forward to questions that are dealing with the subject at hand. But if you just throw out questions just to be trying to throw out questions, sorry, we're not gonna follow that line of questioning. But if you have questions, that are dealing with the subject at hand, we would love you to send those on over to us. All right, here we go. We're going to go with our tzedakah time tonight. And our list isn't very large tonight. So we always start off with our main teacher, Pesach and Shira Sherbo. They live in Sfat, Israel. And then we've got Nadine Akins, still on our tzedakah list. Janice Brandon. We've still got her on our tzedakah list. Have you heard anything from Janice, Ronald?
Yep. She hasn't been too good lately, so she hasn't been with our groups here. So, yeah, we'll keep her in our prayers.
Okay.
She's having difficulties here.
Okay, we'll keep her in there. And then, of course, Wendell and Mary Parsons is on our in our tzedakah list tonight. And then we're giving Thanksgiving tzedakah for Jeremy Kibbe. Jeremy's life is turning. I mean, he just I'm just real excited of what is happening with Jeremy Kibbe. Also tonight, Ronald, we got you and your sister. I'm going to get you to say your sister's name, but how are you doing, Ronald?
I'm doing pretty good. I had my appointment on Monday finally, and I've still got a bit of a wait, but they're going to do a proper CT scan of the area to see if they can work out what's happening. So that's what I was after. That was why I needed that appointment, to get that rolling. My sister's not doing great. They've finished doing her tests and biopsy. Everything's inconclusive, and they're not going to do anything. They want to restart the tests in October. So she's pretty anxious about that, because if it's cancer, she's just getting left behind with no treatment.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. We're going to keep her on there. And then also, I just saw a text before we go any further here. I want to get this text from Joanna. Please add me to this list. I'm going to add you right now. You're going to have knee replacement. Okay, we're gonna put you on there. Joanna Flynn Wakeup. We got her in our tzedakah list tonight, and I'm going to add you right now, Joanna, so I won't forget you next week. Got you on there. So, and that's June 16th. We're looking for great things. You'll be running in no time. Take that and run with it, Joanna. Okay. So we're also, somebody always sends in $1 for Amuela. We're putting $1 in. That's from Amuela Asher, and one for Veronica Port, and one for Thomas Schaus. And then in our blessed memory tonight, and this is who we are doing, we're dedicating the class tonight to Donald Morton. Or Donnie Morton, I'm sorry, to Donnie Morton. We're dedicating the class to him tonight, as well as giving tzedakah for him. Would you help us pray tonight? Hear our voice, Adonai, our God, Father of mercy. We ask that you have compassion on us, and that you would accept our prayers with compassion and favor. For we know that you are a God who hears our prayers and our supplications. You are our King. We ask that you do not send us away empty-handed. Favor us and answer us and listen to our prayers. Amen. All right, Terry, are you ready for me to put you on speaker view, and then you can take it away?
All right. Yeah, tonight we're going to, God willing, cover Genesis chapter 1, verses 24 through 26. There's a lot of information just even in these couple of passages. Our primary source again tonight is going to be Rabbi Hirsch's Chumash on Genesis, and we'll be looking also a little bit into the Ramban, Rabbi Ben Nachman. I'm tongue twisted today, Scotty. Been that way all day long. The Ramban, Rabbi Moshe Ben Nachman. Sorry there. It's been just a weird day today for me, because I had to work. One of my fellow co-workers is taking kind of a short vacation Wednesday through Friday, And so I'm working at his computer, which I don't do very often. So I just kind of was out of sorts this morning at work. I mean, I've got all the stuff set up. It's on for me that, all my stuff's, but it's just being in his station where everything's, I'm not used to being there. And I'm just out of sorts this morning when I got started and just kind of struggled through the day, and hopefully a better day tomorrow. But anyhow, we're going to look at these passages this evening. Like I said, the Rambam's resource we're going to be looking at here in just a few minutes, but primarily through this whole study on at least, the fifth and the sixth day, because Rabbi Moshe he breaks these passages down. It's one of these areas where he breaks them down by the words, talks about the words, the Hebrew words that are used there, what they mean. Also looking at other Hebrew and Aramaic words that ties to them, which a lot of them I can't pronounce, so I don't. But I can read them. I know what he's saying, and how he just brings in this just a smorgasbord of understanding of what these verses are telling us, what God's doing, like, what we've learned over the last, few weeks, and how God is putting his creation together, how he's working it and how he's molding it and fashioning it. And it just continues on into the sixth day. I want to read verses 24 and 25 here at first, because we're going to go over these first. But verse 24, chapter 1 of Genesis, God said, and I'm reading from the Hirsch Chumash, and God said, let the earth bring forth living creatures according to their species, cattle and creeping things and animals of the land according to their species. And it was so. Verse 25, and God created the animals of the land according to their species, according to cattle according to its species, and every creeping thing upon the ground according to its species. And God saw that it was all good. And as we can tell from a continuation, that God puts an emphasis in his creation that things that he creates are categorical species and kinds and according to, and that's a big part of his creation that teaches us. We're to learn from. He wanted Adam to, when Adam was to look at the creation and to learn what God did, and to meditate on it and study the creation. And so we see that God divides things up according to his will, to his plan. He goes, Rabbi Hirsch says, of the plants, the scripture says, let the earth open or sprout, let the earth open or reveal. Indeed, the plant, with all of its characteristics, with all of its development, remains bound to the body of earth. Plants remain bound to the body of earth. Of the water creatures, the scripture says, let the waters produce free-moving creatures. But these creatures remain within the element that produced them. See, the water produced the elements. I mean, the fishes of the sea. And they remain in their element. Only the living creatures created from the earth, does the scripture say, the earth is to bring them forth outside its midst. These parts of creation is going to come up out of the earth and is going to be free from the earth. Only in their case does the living organisms attain a higher and a more free independence. This independence progressively increases until it reaches the level of man, only part of whose essence was created from the earth. So when he talked about living creatures in the Hebrew, again, we've covered this one before back in verse 20. It is nefesh chaya, which represents all source of movement. Represents all source of movement. Then he mentions he says, according to their species, cattle and creeping things, and animals of the land according to their species. And so the word animal is the word that is used there. When he breaks it down in the Hebrew, he shows it's an apt word. It's an apt word for this. This Hebrew word is apt for the animal, because that by nature, he says, it's an apt word for those animals that are by nature submit to man to serve him. The word that is used there is discussing about the animals that will serve man. He says the animals that are subordination to man constitutes a rung in the ladder of man's spiritual ascendance. So this is a new step, but man's not here yet. But these animals were created to be subordinate to man, to take man up the next level of spiritual ascendance. Without oxen to work for him, man would have to have harnessed himself to the plow and the wagon, performing back-breaking work and to carry heavy loads under the exhausting physical burden. His intellect would have gradually decayed, never to recover, because he himself would have become a subservient animal. When oxen were harnessed, Rabbi Hirsch says, to the plow and to the wagon, and the sheep graze on their own with no great exertion required on man's part, man's intellect was free to study and for contemplation of heaven. Contemplation of heaven and earth. His mind was free to think while he plowed his field and shepherded his flock. Thanks to the animal, man attained his spiritual height. In contrast with the beasts of the earth, wild animals, the chaya, the life, does not submit to man. Hence, it symbolizes self-contained independence, chaim, or life. And the lower creatures that creep on the ground, man pushes them aside. There's another part we'll get into here a little bit later is Rabbi Hirsch's also extended teachings that we're going to be touching into, talking about the lower creatures that man pushes aside. In verse 26, he says, and let us make man, or let us make an Adam. This is how Rabbi Hirsch translate this, because it's what it is saying. Let us make an Adam. We're going to get on that point a little bit later, as an Adam is very, very interesting. A deputy in the form worthy of us, in keeping with our image, and they shall exercise dominion over the fish of the sea and the birds of the sky, and over the animals, and over the whole earth, and over all creeping things that creeps on the earth. He says, all other creatures are introduced by a narrative. Only at the moment of their actual creation. Man, however, is introduced before he was created. Because as this says, it says here, it says, V'yomer Elohim, God said, Na'aseh, let us make Adam. God said, let us make Adam. Creation is interrupted, as it were, and the Creator announces to the world his intention to create man and Adam. For Adam will rule the world as its God-appointed ruler and leader. The world is now being prepared for its master's coming. I want to stop here for a second. I want to take a look at this section here, and y'all probably already figured it out. There's a lot of misunderstanding about let us make man, because it talks about it is the na'asa is plural, and a lot of people want to tie a plurality to God here, saying that he is a God, like a Godhead, meaning more than one. There's messages that are preached, doctrines are made using this by people who do not know the Hebrew nor the Torah and what it is saying. So tonight we're going to learn what it means here in the Torah, in God's words, what it means. And God said, let us make. Let us make man. Let us make Adam. The Ramban his teaching is so clear. It is the best. It is textual. And you will see this. He says, the Ramban notes that man was created by an independent act of creation. A separate utterance, just like what Rabbi Hirsch just said here, a separate utterance was devoted to the making of man. He was not created together with the animals because of his exalted status. For his nature is not like the nature of the beasts and the animals that God created with the preceding utterances. He says, for the Ramban goes on and says, for you have already been shown in order to know that God created something out of nothing on the first day of creation only. From those elements that were created from nothing on the first day. Thus, just when God gave to the water the capability of bringing forth living souls, the utterance directed toward them, the utterance toward them said, let the waters bring forth. And just as the utterance regarding the animals, it says, let the earth bring forth. Now he stops. And he makes another utterance separate from them and says, concerning man, the Creator says, let us make. Meaning, I, together with the aforementioned earth, will make man. By this, the Creator, and what he meant when he says, the earth should bring forth man's body from its elements, as it did with the animals and the beast. And God formed the man out of the dust of the ground, in chapter 2, verse 7. While he, blessed be he, would supply the spirit from the mouth of the Supreme One, and he blew into his nostrils the soul of life. So when we see here, when we see the plural form of Naaseh, let us make, God is continuing his conversation. He's telling the waters to bring forth its beings it's going to live on. And he's telling the earth, bring forth the beings it's going to live. And then he stopped and he says, now let us make man in our image. Man, the us in this passage is God and the earth. For we carry the image of the earth and the image of God. Our bodies comes forth from the earth, because we know he says, when we die, our bodies goes back to where it came from, back to the ground. And the spirit that was in us goes to the one who gave us the spirit. And so the us here in let us make man is God in the earth, partnering in creating a new and totally separate and highly level, spiritual level being called Adam. It's a total separate creation from anything else on the planet. God is capstoning his creation, which we're going to see that here in just in a few minutes as we go through the rest of these passages. But he stopped, he made a separate utterance. When he told the earth to bring forth the animals, as you read through the passages, soon after he says, you bring forth the animals. Then he says, now let us. We're going to work together and make man. And he made this announcement before the actual making of man. Scotty's going to start getting into the different words of here, that the rest of this verse is anything we want to cover before I go on to the next. Are you sure? All right. Because this is a biggie for a lot of people. It has nothing to do with the plurality of God, Godheads and gods and multiples and trinities and all that. No, it has everything to do that we're talking about the creation week, what God is doing in his creating. And this passage follows right along with it. Now he's got to the height. He's getting to the height of his creation, and he does something totally different. And he in his creation of man. Rabbi Hirsch goes on in his when he's talking about Adam. I'll go over to his collective writings. When he's talking about Adam, he says the term Adam is not a proper name. Adam's name wasn't Adam. It wasn't a name. But it was a class, a kind, or a group. It was a kind or a species of his creation, a separate species, a separate class in his creation. So it wasn't his name. Adam is a class. Rabbi Hirsch goes on and says, curiously, Adam is often considered in coming from the earth, brought forth by Adama, that's the earth, as if man alone originated from the earth and not, he goes, and not also the creatures who are in fact far more earthly than man. The creatures are far more earthly than we are, even though our bodies came from the earth, but our full essence did not come from there. And he talks about the Nefesh Chai again. He says, and on the contrary, it is man and man alone who is not a son of earth, for his breath is of God. Our breath is from God. Only his body is part of the earth. Adam most definitely does not derive from Adama. but it derives from Adam, thus characterizing the earth as the soil for human dominion. Though we came out of the earth, our bodies came from the earth, we are not the son of earth, but we are the son of God. All humans are the son of God because when he breathed into us the characteristics of that image of God coming in of us, we now have dominion over the soil. It doesn't have dominion over us. We have dominion over, man has dominion over the soil. He goes on and says, we must try to understand how our language, the Hebrew language, attempts to indicate in the word Adam the concept of man. This is man, Adam, quasi, the alter ego, the representative on earth of the creator above. Man is the representative on earth of the creator above. He goes on and he says the root of Adam, again, means a footstool. Designates man as the footstool for divine presence. The bearer and the agent for the divine and for God's dominion on earth, both the sanctuary and man, in fact, the whole earth, in the service of God. He says it is a seal. So the primary meaning of the word them that is in this passage is to seal. A seal is symbolic representation of the person who has the authority over a given object. Man is the seal of God on the creation of Adam. Summarizing, Rabbi Hirsch goes on and says, these meanings, they all appear to apply to the creation of man. The meaning of let us put the seal on the work of creation by calling man into being. Man is the seal of God's creation. Scotty's staring intently. You got anything? Okay. I just like watching Scotty. He says, moreover, man is not defined by his earthliness. Rabbi Hirsch tells us man is not defined, or Adam is not defined by his earthliness. For his earthly origin is what he has in common with all other creatures. Whereas the uniqueness of man is that he is not created entirely from the earth. The breath of God breathed into his earthly frame. That is what makes man into man. The very fact that a grand announcement is made here testifies that the term Adam signifies man's exalted purpose. And over in 2:7, where he's talking, he says, the term Adam is certainly not conceived of here as a mere block of earth. The word Adam is not just a block of earth. It signifies man's exalted purpose. And he goes back here in his Chumash. He's reiterating what he says in his collective writing. He says the inference is that man is the seal of God on creation. He is the seal through which the world can recognize its unseen master. Adam is the seal through which the world can recognize its unseen master. The purpose of man is to be a likeness of God. But he is to affect this likeness through his own free and dynamic power. In other words, man is a representative of the alter ego of God. Man has but one purpose. Rabbi Hirsch says, is to be a representative and deputy of the Creator. It's hard to see this sometimes most of the time when you look around at the world. When you watch these nuts driving past you on the interstate, almost running you off the road. If you work in retail and how customers come in and talk to you. You're shopping in the grocery store and people are pushing and shoving. It's hard sometimes to see that on the sixth day of creation, God created a highly exalted spiritual being called Adam. And his main purpose was to be a representative and a deputy of the Almighty. But just like Rabbi Hirsch says, we are only in the likeness of God through our own free will and dynamic power. I mean, I've heard, some of our teachers, Scotty and our teachers and some rabbis say that when we see man acting in wickedness, they're no longer in the image of God, they're full animal. Because the image of God doesn't act like that. And on the other hand, the reason why, like Scotty does, we do tzedakah, we do charity, is because even though humanity of its own free will may not be shining the likeness of God that is in them, when they're in trouble, we go and we look at the dignity of man because of the image of God that is in them. Because whatever we do or don't do, good or bad, to another human being, we, in essence, we're doing it to the image of God that's in that person. See, this can be a very, very, it can go on and be very deep in study and learning. I'm studying civility right now as I'm working on some things I'm wanting to write about. And civility and talking about the dignity of man. And this is totally through, I say it's like, it's a secular source, but it's a very, very, very good book on civility. And when we look at man and we look at ourselves, do we see the exalted representative and deputy of God? It's hard. And maybe just learning this right here, you look in the mirror, do you see yourself as God's representative and his deputy on earth to display the likeness that he has put inside you of himself? I know in studying this, it's caused me to meditate on my actions, my character. Am I displaying to my fellow coworkers and to my fellow neighbors and stuff the image of God? And I'm not talking about being spiritual, running around, with these and thous and, pretending to be, spiritual. No. our highest spirituality is what we do and how we do things to fellow man. What we do to them, what we say to them, how we treat them. This is our spirituality. This is our likeness of God. When we look at his characteristics, we see that his, long suffering, his loving kindness. When we look at his attributes, these are the things that we are to be representative of unto the earth. And in this world, sometimes it can be very, very, very hard. On the word B'Tselem, our image. Over here, Rabbi Hirsch in his collective writings, I wanted to discuss that. Let me see here. Wait a minute. I think I already did on 54, page 54. Let me just make sure I did do that. Yeah, on his image again, he talks about the image of God within us is a seal. Man is the seal of his creation. He says man's bodily form already attests about him that he is a deputy of God. He is divinity on earth. In the image of God that's in each one of us, Rabbi Hirsch says, we are divinity on earth. Then he goes into the Hebrew word that is translated after our likeness. He says, it's befitting for man whose purpose is to be godlike. He says, another word that comes from this word after our likeness means also to be silent. This is a concept of likeness reflected similarly as objects are silent towards one another. They do not speak, express opposition one to another. They do not vocally contradict one another. It says, in modern languages, we find a concept of a screaming. It's a contrast. Man's task is to resemble God. Man's task to resemble God is expressed then in a negative manner. In his whole being, there should be nothing that contradicts the divine attributes. Now, this is a hard one. And we go over and look at the divine attributes of God, and we see here, as Rabbi Hirsch is teaching us, in the whole being of man, there should be nothing that contradicts the divine attributes, nothing that contradicts truth and love, justice and holiness. Man cannot become equal to God, but it is his duty to bear a resemblance to him. Man cannot become equal to God, but it is our duty to bear a resemblance to him. Scotty, it looks like you were going to say something. Go ahead. Time to get a drink.
It takes me a couple minutes to get back over here. Okay.
Yeah, you switch sides of the page on me.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just kidding. Okay.
So give me a minute to bring this out because there's a conversation going on. And I'm going to, the word I'm going to use in explaining this is religion. I don't want to name any type of religion. I'm just going to say religion. Mm-hmm. Religion in general teaches man that he is no good from his birth and that he is unable to fulfill, I'm just going straight in for the kill right here, okay?
I know.
And he is unable to fulfill any great attributes, any good attributes, any attributes at all. And what happens is, you talked about looking in the mirror. When we look in a mirror, we see ourselves lacking. What happens when we do that? We judge other people according to how we see ourselves. So we judge other people always lacking, and we pass judgment on them because they lack things. Unknowingly, we're passing judgment on ourselves because we're judging them according to how we see ourselves. I just throwed that in, laid the cards out on the table. I hope you got what I was trying to say.
Right. The question that I have, which we will be getting more into that actual subject when we get into chapter 4, but I have a question. Who told you that? Who told you that you were born unworthy, born a failure, born degenerate? Who told you that?
Mm-hmm.
Where does that come from? When we read right here that in the name Adam itself is a term of a master that the Creator made to rule the earth, to make dominion, and to bear his divinity on earth, and it is a duty to bear a resemblance to him. That's what this Adam means. This in our image and in our likeness. These words in Hebrew that goes back to 3,400 years ago when God was speaking these words to Moses and saying, write these things down. God does not have a negative look on man. He has a negative look on our actions, but in his creation, he says it was good. So who told you it was degenerate? Who told you that man was degenerate and could not follow the attributes of God when God says it is good, and by the sheer name of Adam, he has given you the divine power to follow his attributes. He deputized you. So who told you you were degenerate? God didn't. Who are you listening to? Are you listening to the? No, I ain't going to go there right now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go. But I'm just asking you the question. Who told you this?
You know, a lot of religious things are conditioned into the people.
Oh, no, I agree. I'm born and raised in it myself. Preach some of it myself.
Yeah. I've talked to people who are non-religious, and religion still has an effect in their life. You know, they don't follow any religion, but yet the cultural eye of religion still.
It's the culture.
Yeah.
So my question for you is, and you need to answer this for yourself, who told you these things? And where did they get their information? I'm getting my information from the Torah, the living word of God spoken to Moses on Mount Sinai 3,400 years ago. And God told Israel, or told Moses, I speak to you in front of all of these people so that they will believe in you forever. He didn't even say believe in me. He did not say that I'm speaking to you, Moses, in front of all these millions of people so they'll believe in me. No, God said in Exodus, I believe it's 19, says, I speak to you in front of all of these people so that they'll believe in you, Moses, forever. I'll take Moses' words from the mouth of the Almighty over someone else who's come along, Johnny come lately. And I'm just going to be honest with you. If you want to learn where that stuff came from, go back and study Greek and Roman religion and mythologies and their thoughts of man and the earth and their thoughts of the condition of man. Go back and read some of that, study some of that, and you'll find where that comes from.
I think every one of us have used the analogy at one time or another about how when someone's studying or trying to become a banker or a cashier or a bank teller, I think bank tellers where I was going, that they don't study fake stuff. They study the real thing so that they can see the fake come up. The problem is when you start with the fake first, it takes a while to learn the reality of the real thing. And there's a war that takes place. I just told somebody a second ago. It hurts, and I think a lot of, well, I don't want to get too much into that, but yeah, it just takes time. We have to go and read it for ourselves and read it with somebody that can. Well, I don't want to get it. Go ahead, Terry. I could almost take up an offer.
It can be a battle. It can be a battle. It takes time. It takes prayer. It takes study. It takes patience. Some of these things doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't take someone debating you either. Debating someone over religion never convinced anybody of anything. It takes just on. I mean, in my personal life, I won't go into all the details, but I went through this same battle myself years ago, and I had a particular friend of mine was wanting me to study with him, and he was my very first Orthodox Jewish friend. He was wanting me to study some stuff with him. I wasn't ready. I was going to his house. I said, I want to learn Torah. I said, just teach me the Torah. Let's leave this other stuff out. And that's what he did. But there came a point in my life several years later, he wasn't here. And I had a study group I was teaching in my home, and I kept getting this particular question, and I won't say what it was. It went on for a month. This lady raised her hand. She asked the same question every time we got together. And finally, I said, Sue, I'm going to go find out. And that's when all of a sudden, some of this stuff that my friend was wanting to share with me, I'm saying, maybe I need to look at this. And so I started looking into it. And I've already was starting to learn Hebrew, and I was already starting to learn the Torah, reading it in the way the Torah is supposed to be read. And he started giving me a good foundation of looking at this. And I'll be honest with you, I sat there, I had my laptop up, I had my eSword up with 30 different translations. I had my Tanakh laying there next to me, which is the Hebrew scriptures, the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim, the Torah, the writings, and the prophets. I had it sitting there with me, and I was going through this stuff, and there was this one thing, and like I said, I'm not my show to tell you everything tonight, but if someone wants to know, I'll share with you. But there was this one thing that popped up while I was studying all this, and I went to a particular book in the prophets, and I read it about 4 times. And I went, and it was one of those aha moments that changed my life forever. It wasn't done through a debate. It was God had brought people in my life that laid foundations and teachings to where I could come to God. And it's one of the things, the sages of Israel teaches on the book of Job, that it is the path of the people of the nations. And this is a hard thing. It's a path of the nations to struggle in their path to find God. And it is a struggle. And why we have to go through that will have to be probably a question when we get a chance to sit down at the table with the Almighty. I'm saying that, metaphorically, and going, okay, but it's almost like any job you go to do. If your father raised you, and you go out and you go and you do a job and you do it good, and you look back and you got something that you can look at. Like it's one of the reasons why for 20 years I did heating and air. I enjoyed installation, laying under floors and hanging ductwork and pulling wires. But when I hit that switch and that unit came on, that compressor sang, and all my hard work that I've put on did for 3 days has now come to a completion, then you can take joy. And this is the same way with your spirit and your soul. When you struggle to connect with the Almighty in the way He created you, in the way He wants you to be, then there's this joy that you can't understand. there's just a joy, this aha moment that you walk with him. And then it comes to the point where, I mean, this is going to be, I'm going to talk about this right now totally, but we will in the future. One of my favorite rabbis, Rabbi Laser Brody, you go to a place where your sins become merits. Any sin that brings you to the Creator actually turns into a merit. And that's what happens when you come to the Creator and you're coming down this path and you're learning about him and you start seeing these things in your life. And yes, you may have shortcomings. Yes, you may have sins, but now you're not tearing yourself up about it. You're getting to the point where you can go to the Creator and you talk to him about these things openly. I'm struggling with this. I'm failing with this. Not to beat yourself down, but you're coming to him saying, hey, I'm your deputy over here and I've got a point I'm struggling in. I need some help. And it totally changes your life and how you approach the Creator. When you learn that you're not downtrodden and you're not worthless anymore, but that you are a deputy and a representative of the Almighty God, and you can go not only to your God, but your King, your Maker, your Father, as his representative and as his deputy, and say, hey, I'm struggling. And he will walk you through that. Sometimes it's going to be hard. It's not going to be all easy. But it's like that job well done. When you get to the other side and you see things, you're going to have a joy because you've worked on yourself and you've brought yourself up into the image of God. Go ahead, Scott.
I had already put you back on speaker view.
Okay.
So no, that's
okay. I know it's 9 o'clock.
3 minutes till.
Can I finish verse 26?
Here? Yeah.
Can I finish verse 26?
And we'll put you back on speaker view.
We're going to move over here. But this is what this is for. This is for us to have discussions and to talk and to share, and to know that we're not coming against anyone and you're not coming against anyone, but we can come together as brothers and sisters and fellow deputies and fellow representatives of the Almighty God, and we can work out this path together sometimes. There's things you're going to have to work out yourself, but it's also nice to know you got someone walking with you on that path to help hold you up, because that's what, being human's all about, is sharing the image of God with one another. Okay, the word here where he jumps over here where he says in the word rule, remember, and they shall rule, yes, in verse 26, or have dominion or rule. It's interesting. There's a couple of different words. We won't get into that for dominion and to subdue. They're two different words. But this one here, this word that means they shall rule, is taken as a collective term for humanity and hence a plural form. The word dominion here is a plural form, or to rule, because it's talking about all of humanity. The basic meaning is to bring something down from the heights of its freedom and to bring it into one's hand under control. In Judges, there's an example of this word, meaning to bring down the loaves that were stuck to the walls of the oven. Thus, by extension, the word means to deprive something of its independence and freedom and to bring it under one's control. It says in all other cases, the word rule or dominion here means to exert control over an object in certain aspects of its being. Indeed, this is man's positions as regard to other living creatures. His mission is not to make them all entirely subservient to him. The earth and its creatures may have aspects that are beloved, that are beyond the sphere of his control, and in these respects, they serve their own purpose. His task is to exercise his control over living creatures and over the earth itself. In fulfilling his mission as man, he is to deprive them of some of their freedom and to bring them partially into his hands, like putting 2 oxen to in a yoke to plow a field. He's taking some of their freedom for his purpose to plow the field. He goes on and says, if he controls the creatures as Adam, then they will willingly accept the yoke of his control. See, now understand this concept. If he rules the creatures as Adam, the one who bears the likeness of the Creator, the Creator's representative, his master on the Creator's master on the earth, they will willingly accept the yoke of his control. His controls does not constitute subjugation and degradation, but is an elevation for them and involves them in divine freedom. So when we take animals and when we use them for the purpose that the way the Creator designed us, and we do the proper kind of subduing, and we bring them into divine work with us, it elevates those animals in a divine freedom. The whole world submits willingly to a man who is pure, who serves his Creator. If, however, man misuses his position and does not control the world's creatures as an Adam, as the representative and deputy of God, but by his own power and by his own might of his own hand, then the living creatures do not willingly submit to him. Now, the word subdue, this is a total different word, differs from the word that's translated as dominion or rule. The word that's translated as subdue denotes the relationship of a ruler to his people, and even his relationship is merely conditional one. On the other hand, it denotes a different relationship. As in verse 28, when we get to it, denotes man's relationship to the inanimate earth. It says, then it is forcibly to subdue something. This task, the word subdue here, this task is to impress one's own stamp on a thing and transform it into one's very own. It is given to man only in regard to inanimate nature. When we subdue the earth and we subdue things, these are inanimate objects. Inanimate objects are to serve him as material, tools, and means to carry out his deeds. Human craftsmanship is the great furnace that transforms the raw material and invests it into a new form. For originally, man was not allowed in the killing of living animals. So the subduing was over inanimate objects, like taking ore and making plows. So therefore, it says the creeping things, and he says interprets in the sequence of living creatures, the creeping things. And only afterwards does the scripture list the creeping things. The inference is that man's dominion is over the creeping things of the earth, is merely a consequence of his dominion over the whole earth, and as a matter of fact, does not exercise dominion over creeping things directly. Rather, he destroys them or drives them out of every spot of the earth that he needs for his dominion. Like when the spiders comes in the house. we definitely take dominion. The roaches, when they come, we definitely take the dominion and rule over them and get them out of our way. It's kind of what, when I was reading, that's what I got out of that. And so that's 24 through 26. And like I said, I knew that there was going to be a lot there, a lot to think about. Go ahead, Scotty.
Let's see. Veronica asked something over here. Is there a book that summarizes or focuses on how we need to be God's representative on earth.
I don't know if there's just one. I know that it is a theme that is scattered out through many.
Yeah.
I like how Joanne put that. We are a privileged people. What a privileged people we are. Yes. We're learning who we are in the eyes of God when he created us, and nothing has changed except our actions. He despises our actions. Just as in Ezekiel 18 says, he doesn't, glory in the death of the wicked, but they would turn. And turn to what? And we're going to learn about that when we get to chapter 4.
Yeah.
We might have us a shouting corner, an amen corner. Because in chapter 4 that's a section there I've been studying there's a couple, just about 2 verses there I've been studying almost 20 years. Started a long time before I even started studying the Hebrew scriptures. I just got one day, I don't know what it was, just something came to me to read them. And I've been reading these 2 particular passages for almost 20 years. And never stopped. I've never stopped learning anything about them too.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Scotty.
No. Veronica said maybe we can have a class on attributes.
Yeah.
That would be.
I mean, I know Mesorah is the study of attributes and character and things like that. But you're talking about studying the attributes of God.
I think that's what she's discussing and how it affects us.
Ramban Hirsch, I know the Breslov teach a lot on that. I mean, I've got about 20 books over here where it's all scattered through their stuff. Being grateful and thanksgiving and things like that.
All right. Well, Terry, are we ready to bring it to a close for tonight?
We're ready. Everybody's ready.
All right. I want to say appreciate everybody in Power Faith Radio for hanging with us tonight, and those of you that popped in and out and asked a few questions while they were there. We appreciate it so much. Remember, you can always go over to a Simple Walk Facebook page, and there you'll find all the links on how you can find our YouTube channel and come on in to the Zoom room. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you share this video with all your social media platforms. We greatly appreciate it. You can send us messages through Messenger, through our Facebook page, and you can also send us an email. Just send that email to outreachnoah@gmail.com. We thank everybody for joining us here in the Zoom room. Those of you that were listening via YouTube, we thank you so much. And we will see you next week.
Yeah, God willing. Have a good one.